I'm an Irishman. I moved to Asia about a year ago, and I did so because I feel that every 10 or 20 years or century is defined by place. And in this next century, in this next 50 years or so, I believe Asia will be that place, similar to where Florence was the place of the 14th and 15th century, Paris in the 20s, San Francisco in the 60s, and the dot-com boom in the 90s in Silicon Valley. So I left the great hills and plains of Silicon Valley, of Palo Alto, of San Jose, and San Francisco, and I made my way to Singapore, to Hong Kong, and to Shanghai. And now I live in Asia because I firmly believe that Asia is the next wave. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about work for fun. And it was on a warm Singaporean night last September. I got a cold slap in the face. And that slap in the face came to me from a young entrepreneur who told me that A, I was one of the lucky ones, and B, that I was selfish. And I said to her, how the hell can I be selfish? Don't I help entrepreneurs every day? Don't I invest in early stage entrepreneurial companies? And she said, what about the rest of us? You, my friend, have invested in big data companies, social messaging companies, social networking companies. But what about the person who wants to do a business and may not fit the mold of a founder that you generally invest in? And she told me, and this type of quote, and I paraphrase from Bono, another Irishman, where Bono said that too many great artists die in rooms with broken hearts in broken windows. And this lady was espousing the exact same thing to me about entrepreneurs. She told me that too many great entrepreneurs with great ideas don't fulfill their dreams, and they fail in rooms with broken hearts. And she told me that I was a person that could help fix this. And I didn't believe I was, to be totally honest, so I said, look, I'll take it on board. I went home and I ignored the idea. And I woke up about 2 or 3 days later with a sort of premonition that I could do something about it, because I kept thinking about this phrase from Confucius. I saw this quotation online, Confucius quotation that said, if you choose a job you love, you never have to work a day in your life. And what's really interesting about this quotation is I actually thought that I invented that. Because I always tell people that if you work for fun, you never feel like you work at all. Okay? And everybody who works with me in the Work for Fun movement, my partner at Amobi, Mark Strecker, Constance Breton, will agree with that, because I think I've invented everything to do with Work for Fun and everything to do with Amobi to boot. So upon that journey, we decided as part of Work for Fun to help people to realize their hopes and dreams, to do something that really matters. And there's no better way of expressing that than a friend of mine, a guy called Guy Kawasaki, who was the Mac evangelist at Apple, worked for Steve Jobs, and Guy says it better than anybody else could say it, which is the 3 great reasons to start a company. And those reasons are to change the world, to make meaning, or to prevent the end of something good. And that's really the ethos of Work for Fun. What Work for Fun is not about, which is the #1 reason not to start a business, is to make money. Because when you make money, you'll probably make greed. When you make greed, you'll probably make evil. You certainly won't change the world. You certainly won't make meaning. And you certainly, I believe, not have fun doing it. So what are the problems with our entrepreneurial ecosystem today? Because I'm sure you sit there and you say, okay, we hear you, but don't we have incubators, and don't we have Sand Hill Road, and don't we have Silicon Valley and Silicon Alley? What are the problems that we see today? And why is there a need for an organization of Work for Fun? So first of all, I want to take you back to last June. I was in Paris and I was in the Louvre. I was a student of art history, and I'm trying to teach my kids that art and knowing good things about great art is very important. So I was walking my 9-year-old around the Louvre Museum, and he asked me a question, as they do. And he said, why, Daddy, is there so many works of art in the Louvre that are much more works of art in the Louvre than the other museum we saw yesterday, the Musée d'Orsay, which is right across the banks of the Seine. Why is there more art here? And I thought, gosh, another why is the sky is blue question. So as a good parent, I made up the first answer that came to my mind, which was, I said, son, in the era of art in the Louvre, in the 15th, 16th, and 17th century, there was patrons. And in the 18th and 19th century, patronage went on decline. So the number of bodies of art that were produced in the era of the d'Orsay was less than the era of the Louvre. And when you look back on the advent of patronage, this is iconic art of the 13th century. I know it's a religious representation. I don't want to get into that today, but personally to me it's pretty boring. And with the Medici family of Florence and with patronage, doing something for the sake of doing good, we then saw the world of art evolve. The Pieta from Michelangelo, but not only art, great advances in the world of science, in the world of thought, in the world of philosophy, and in the world of architecture. So what began as a way of just imparting money to Michelangelo so he could travel to Rome to paint the Sistine Chapel or sculpt the Pieta became a whole movement that pretty much changed the world. I think that we need a rethink because there are so many ideas and so many great entrepreneurs in our ecosystem that have ideas that just don't fit. And the reason is we only have investors today, we don't have patrons. We don't have those who want to do good. With that type of investing, we become very, very tip focused. Bets are placed on exactly the same subject matter. We all want to put our hotel on Piccadilly or build our house in Grosvenor Square. On the monopoly board that is investing today. We gather and run to the same idea. For example, you hear every VC on the planet, this is my social networking play. This is my social messaging play. I'm investing either WhatsApp, with KakaoTalk, with Line, Viber, and the list goes on. And then what we find is a whole undiscovered layer of innovation that doesn't come to the fore. As I mentioned earlier, bets are all placed on the same element of the monopoly board. And in my industry, this is digital advertising. The Amobi logo is actually up on that screen, although you can't see it. And the very sad thing about my industry of digital advertising is that the industry is incredibly proud of this slide. Too many companies, too many people, too many investments. Is there not a better way that we don't behave like sheep and take our investment dollars and place it on different and more diverse ideas? As a case in point, when you look at the voice over IP industry, there was 92 investments made. You all know of Skype. I ran a company called Jaja. There was 20,000 people employed, over $7 billion of investment capital, 20,000 people working on average 10 years. That's 200,000 years of lives, hopes, sweat, and dreams, coming home late in the evening, telling their partners, it'll be worth it one day. We'll make it rich with our stock options, and a whole lot of failure. When you look back at the golden age of American entrepreneurship and you look back at the likes of Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt was not building the railway. He was trying to connect people on the east coast of America to the west coast of America. And to do that, he needed to build a bridge over the Mississippi. And in building the bridge over the Mississippi, he employed Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie took what was normally made with wood and built that bridge made of steel after walking down the street and watching a blacksmith fashion knives and forks, which was the only type of implements that steel was used for, and took that idea and made steel girders. He built the bridge over the Mississippi. It took him 4 years of his dream to do so. And on that bridge, Rockefeller took his oil, kerosene, not the oil industry as we know it today, but kerosene, which provided light and heat, to the homes of Manhattan, where JP Morgan built a financial system so people could keep their money safe and prosper, not Wall Street as we know it today. And these were great dedications to ideas that scaled and changed the world and improved lives. So why are we doing a gazillion apps? I know they're corporations, but it's really sad that Google and Apple say we've got 2 billion apps now in the app stores, and there's a race to see who has the most apps. What the world is telling us is that building an application is the easiest way to express your idea. It's the democratization of ideas. So it tells us that innovation and broad-scale innovation to the tune of 2 billion ideas is there and true. As an industry, we continue to invest in our own likeness. Unfortunately, the industry continues to invest in people like me. So what is Work for Fun for? I just want to give you 3 examples of entrepreneurs that we've started with to work with it since last September, entrepreneurs that have just walked in the door that don't look like somebody like me or the other successful guys on the screen. One entrepreneur is a 28-year-old Singaporean. She's not been to university. She makes handbags. When we met her, she had built 40 handbags by hand using artisans outside New Delhi. Everybody in Singapore loves these handbags, but she really didn't know how to monetize her idea. She doesn't know what venture capital is, and she doesn't know where Sand Hill Road is. But she knew that she was brilliant at making handbags, so we helped her get her seed funding. And now our handbags are in Robinson's, a very large department store in Singapore, in a very short period of time. And a very, very influential fashion mogul who was mentioned earlier today has contacted her and wants to meet her next month in order to invest in our company. Another entrepreneur came to us and said, look, there are great companies out there making candles, but those candles are made of paraffin. And paraffin pollutes the atmosphere, and it's really harmful to people. And those large organizations who sell gargantuan amounts of candles are selling them made of a substance that's bad. And to boot, they're charging $200 per candle. I want to make candles made of beeswax. I want to make them in a sustainable fashion, and I want to make them in Bali. And I want to help the folks in Bali who make, artisans in Bali who make great candles, and I want to distribute them around the world. That person has just launched their website, taken their first order, and now is producing sustainable candles that are incredibly popular. The third example, which is a 50-year-old person, I think he's 50, I don't want to insult him if he's 48, but he looks 48 to 52, that kind of range. This gentleman came to us and said, I want to be involved in the tech industry. I have never worked in the tech industry. I always wanted to start a company, but I never really had the guts because I always had a mortgage to pay and I always had a child that was going to university or somebody was starting school or a birthday party I had to, or a graduation party I had to pay for. I never realized the dream of starting my own business. But now at my age, I really feel I have the right idea, but nobody wants to listen to me because they just feel I'm too old. And I produce ship-to-shore radios, and those ship-to-shore radios are very difficult to produce because they have to use satellite, and satellite is a very narrow band. But what I've managed to figure out is how to compress packets such that information can travel on networks in a much faster, more efficient way. And I think I can build a network that's much faster and much more efficient than the complete telecoms industry. It's another entrepreneur that Work for Fun has helped. So Work for Fun is the movement for the rest of us. It's the renaissance for the rest of us. It's to give those who may not get a shot in the traditional ecosystem, to give them an opportunity and to reverse the trend that we see today. It's the modern day Tower of Babel. It's the home of what we're calling funsters. Everybody in this audience can be a funster. You don't have to have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to be an angel investor, and that be the only way that you can participate in the creative process of creating companies. Fundsters can give their time, and time can be a currency. A web developer can help the company develop their website. A person working in finance can help them develop their first business plan or P&L. Work for Fun, the home of Fundsters, is a place that people can communicate, collaborate, and contribute. It may be a room in a local city here in Hong Kong or in Shanghai or in Singapore, in London or Dublin, Ireland. Or it may be just the location of workforfun.com, where people can post their ideas in looking for help, looking for mentorship. Problems can be posted in search of solutions. Ideas are not judged by dollar impact, but their value to society, and everybody gets a shot. There are pretty much no rules. Anybody can be a founder, a fundster, or a funder. Or you can even be all three. You can wear all three hats if you have the resources to do so, or you can just wear one. You can change hats at any time. How it works is founders post videos on workforfun.com. Fundsters can come and look at those videos. It's a 3-minute short and say, yes, I can help that person. And also, fundsters help founders, but funders may finance those founders. There's a lot of F. You'll be very careful with the Fs in this presentation. And we will never shorten, by the way, just as a short interlude, we will never shorten Work for Fun to WFF because it's too close to something else. The reward systems are diverse. It may be money, somebody may decide to pay for the help. It may be paper, somebody may decide to get stock options. It may be the right to invest, or your reward may simply be in heaven, whatever heaven you believe in. There are no fees to participate in workforfun.com or Work for Fun organization. We don't take 6% of your company like an incubator before you walk in the door. And you can check it out, this borderless diverse network at workforfun.com, a place to see the world at innovation. And we'll be launching in early 2014. But this is the perfect forum to share it with those who can make a difference. Thank you very much.